it's important to us that we take time to discuss opportunities in downtown Long Beach for LGBTQ+ businesses to attract customers and grow. To guide today's conversation, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Esteban Gomez. Esteban is co-founder and CEO of Keen Social, a full-service digital marketing agency in Long Beach, and he serves as president of the Long Beach Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, an agency which rebranded itself this year to become the Long Beach LGBTQ+ Chamber, to be more inclusive. He holds a bachelor's degree in recreation, parks, and tourism sciences with a minor in business from Texas A&M University. Go Aggies. He's worked closely with officials at the local and state level to make Long Beach the first city in California to recognize LGBT certification in its procurement process. Esteban, welcome to the Downtown Discussion.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate you guys doing this, and I think all of us collectively appreciate the Downtown Long Beach Alliance, for sure.
Thank you.
Jeremy, just let me know if I should start it off.
Loud and clear, it's your show. Take it away.
Good to go?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Well, so first off, I definitely want to say anybody in our panelists, there's these three little dots at the top of your little screen. If you click on it, you could just rename yourself, and if you could add your gender pronouns, if you go by she or her, add that. If you go by he, him, and his, add that. This just ensures that we are being inclusive of everybody. So with that being said, my first question goes out to Carlos of the Long Beach Center. Carlos, before we start, why don't you introduce yourself and also kind of just tell us a little bit about the center.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Carlos Torres. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the executive director here at the LGBTQ Center Long Beach. As you may know, the center has been around for over 40 years, and our main mission is to advance equity for LGBTQ people through culturally responsive advocacy, education programs, and services. We provide services across the life spectrum, all the way from youth through senior age, and we do that in a variety of programs and services, so mental health services, other adult services, youth services, trans services, and HIV testing and STI testing here in the community.
Thank you so much, Carlos. So my first question goes out to you. It is, as a nonprofit, how did you manage the organization going through the pandemic?
So, like many other organizations and businesses, we had to pivot. And that pivot was almost instantaneous, because obviously when they were open and then the next day the federal government and the local governments are telling us that we need to stay home. However, our services had to continue because of the needs of our community. So we shifted to virtual, which I think a lot of organizations like ours did. And frankly, we were able to take advantage of the CARES Act through the Paycheck Protection program, and secure some funding to allow our operations to continue.
Cool, thank you. And I guess this question goes out to all of us, and we'll start off with you, Carlos. What types of programs are needed to help an economy recover?
I think the CARES Act and the Paycheck Protection Program was a good first start, but clearly businesses, particularly small businesses, businesses that are minority-owned, women-owned, have bear the brunt of the economic toll on the pandemic brought about. So at the local level, I think organizations can support one another, can invest in our community, and by that I mean invest in our people. Plus also, like we're doing today, having conversations with one another as to how we can be supportive and engage what's happening locally. I am excited to see that our local community is coming back out and supporting local businesses. And I hope that that continues because local businesses are the main driving engine of economic success locally.
Cool. Thank you, Carlos. Before we go to everybody else, from a chamber standpoint, I know that some of the programs that some of our members at the chamber level benefited off of were the PPP loans. That really helped keep businesses afloat this last year. As I'm sure you know, as any other person who owned a business last year was pretty tough. And so getting those PPP loans were extremely important, as well as taking advantage of any other types of federal or state grants that might have been circulating. So I know that from a chamber standpoint. Ellie, what about you? What types of programs do you think are needed to help an economy recover?
Well, I definitely want to piggyback on what Carlos said as far as, the community coming out and supporting the small businesses. I think that's really important, especially for the LGBTQ plus community. I think that the way that we can do that, one way is to, of course, curate the places where our money is best spent and where we know that we are supporting each other. Because we are a small community, I think it's very important. And as we continue to grow, that we continue to put money back into our communities. As far as programs are concerned, absolutely, loans that don't need to be paid back are definitely beneficial for small businesses. With that being said, I'm not sure if there's going to be a continuum of that happening because we are a nonprofit. That's not something that I can vastly speak on, but I think that definitely putting more money into our communities is absolutely one of the best ways to go.
Cool. Thank you, Ellie. Jose, what about you? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just gonna say, business isn't really my strong suit, so I hesitate to speak too authoritatively on it. But I would say that, I'm always looking back at the pandemic and asking what good things happened and where we saw opportunities. And I did notice that, some people on unemployment were making a little bit more money than they were before, and that was really good for their mental health. So I don't know if there is, and again, this is where I'm not a politician or a businessman, but I wonder, is there some way to sort of help small businesses subsidize so that they can, because I understand it's hard for a small business to pay more money. So is there some way for sort of them to get loans to help that, so that people, I don't know. Now I'm rambling a little too much on the topic I don't know too much about.
Yep. Thank you, Jose. Let's see. The next question goes out. We'll start with Carlos again. What is your view of downtown Long Beach economy today?
As a newcomer, again, I'm excited. There are a lot of so every place in Long Beach is a new adventure for my family and I, and I'm excited again that I've seen the community coming out, families, older adults, young children. Just over the weekend, we were taking a boat tour, and the area was very vibrant. So I'm excited to see that families again feel comfortable coming out and supporting the work that is being done locally.
Cool, thank you. Ellie?
Well, I mean, again, it's kind of hard to speak on exactly what is happening in downtown since we just reopened. But I got to say, with curating the spaces, which Visit Gay Long Beach is doing, we have found a lot of POC business owners, a lot of LGBTQ business owners, and they were able to weather through the pandemic. And it's really exciting to see them now starting to emerge, and featuring them, I think, is really beneficial to them. And so what I'm seeing is that there's a lot growing. And now that, if I'm jumping ahead a little here, Jeremy, that the Downtown Long Beach Alliance, they're going to be, joining the Safe Spaces Alliance, which is going to continue to help us curate even more businesses. I think that that's going to be beneficial and really help everyone to grow together.
Cool. Thank you, Jose.
I mean, I really love how that sounds. I've spent some time in downtown, and I do notice that the energy is different. And I guess that's where I could comment on is maybe this is an opportunity for us to focus more on local business. I don't know.
I think you're right. I think there's definitely something to the energy being different. And acknowledging that and sitting in that for a minute, owning it, saying, you know what, yes, it's different. We don't necessarily have to go back to the way it was before, but we need to acknowledge the different. And then the key is mapping out how we move forward, move through that different, embracing it and creating something new. For me, that's what's exciting about where we are today. We've all been through something together and we'll get through it together. And that's really what DLBA is trying to do, even by having this conversation, right? To create community within our community, makes us all stronger for it.
I love that. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, and from a chamber standpoint or a personal standpoint, obviously, pre-pandemic, the vibe of downtown Long Beach was thriving, I guess is a good word. And then, you know, during the pandemic, obviously things have changed quite a ton. But what I did like to see is that the city, as well as downtown Long Beach, downtown BA, get together to help some of the shops and build out their little outside spaces, because I know that really helps some of the businesses within the chamber. But as Jeremy, you mentioned, you know, acknowledging what what occurred, I think is really important. I do know that I've spoken to some downtown Long Beach LGBTQ businesses who are definitely struggling at the moment, but then I also know some that are also thriving. So this is just a great moment for all of us to get together and to really kind of chat to see where the LGBTQ plus community is at.
Yeah, as with so many things, I like to think our past informs our present, but it doesn't necessarily define our future, right? So we get to make active choices. It's just about being informed of what we've gone through is who we are, is helping to determine who we are and where we are today.
Right. All right. Next question is, do you think employees will return to the office full-time or will work be at home or maybe even hybrid? Carlos, we'll start with you.
Sure. So for us, being a community center, we have a couple of stakeholders. First, it's our staff. So their safety and well-being is very important to us, as well as the community members that access our services. So right now, we are having internal conversations with both our staff and the public to determine what that will look like. I know that for us, in the short term, when we open our doors, we will be asking everyone, including our staff, to wear masks while they're in the building. Our staff has been vaccinated, but we are not going to be the vaccine police. So we're not going to be asking folks to show proof of vaccination or engaging in exchanges as to why or why not has someone not been vaccinated. So for us, it's going to be a hybrid model. I know that we have some staff that are excited to come back into the building because they miss, you know, working with their colleagues and having conversations and going to lunch and so on. But for others, virtual is where it is. So we would try to accommodate our staff and continue to provide services the best way that we can.
Cool. Thank you, Carlos. Ellie?
Well, for Visit Gay Long Beach, we're definitely going to continue to try to have more events so where we can actually connect and see each other. I think that we will continue with some virtual events as long as they're, you know, available, and, you know, not everybody likes to go out. So I think that we have to respect that. And also our numbers grew through the pandemic because we went virtual and had to pivot and really pull from different places around the world. Literally, we did UK, different events that were happening that people were actually interested in. And so I think that that's something that we need to pay attention to and continue to do. But of course, gearing towards seeing each other, I think it's very important to be able to, you know, hug each other and really talk to each other face to face. It's very different. So I think that we're going to definitely do more in person, but also pay attention to the people that can't really, come out and be out also. So I think that both of those things are going to be important moving forward. So definitely hybrid model.
Thank you. Jose?
I plan on leaving it sort of as an option, luckily I work for myself, so I get to choose, but I plan on going back to the office. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for, the hugging thing just comes up, just sort of like that sort of in-person interaction. I think is very important for my business. But, it's really convenient for some people. So if they say they want to do online, then I'll do online.
Cool, thank you, Jose. And then I would say, from a chamber standpoint, I think this is all dependent upon the business or the corporation and what they decide is best for their business model. But I definitely kind of see a lot of things going hybrid now that people have already saw the luxury of being home. I think it's going to be hard to kind of not let people have a little bit of that every week. So I definitely foresee hybrid being big on a lot of businesses and companies' plate moving forward.
Is it reasonable to consider it on a case-by-case basis? Like, if your employee wants to stay home, let them stay home. If they want to come in and just maybe not have certain things hinge on whether somebody has to come in?
That would be great.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I think it's all dependent upon the business and or the corporation. But I think that would be great. All right, next question is goes to Carlos. Before we, well, actually, I was gonna do this a certain way, but since we're already like in the weeds of things, let Ellie introduce herself and her organization, and then the same with Jose. So Ellie, can you just give a brief description of Visit Gay Long Beach?
Hi, I'm Ellie Perez. I'm the social media manager for Visit Gay Long Beach, a nonprofit. And our dedication is to tourism and curating safe spaces. I'm also the co-founder of the Safe Spaces Alliance. We started it here in Long Beach, but have since gone national and international. So we have 2 spots for that. One of them is called Safe Spaces Long Beach, which you'll see in all the social medias. And then the other one is a broader one, which is the umbrella for all of them, which is the Safe Spaces Alliance. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Ellie. And Jose, can you give a brief description of you and your business?
I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. It's a private practice, work under the name Long Beach Queer Therapy. It's a queer feminist narrative practice, which is basically just a focus on individual, not necessarily diagnosis. It's very much on considering social and economic circumstances, not necessarily putting people into a box of a disease.
Thank you, Jose. Okay, so now that our attendees have an idea of what both Ellie, Carlos, and Jose, you guys do and what your businesses and organizations do, I think this is a great little kind of segue question for our attendees who don't exactly understand what LGBTQIA plus and all of those acronyms mean. So Carlos, as the director of the center, what would you say, what are communities and the difference between sexual orientation and gender identity?
Sure. So to keep it short and simple, when we're talking about sexual orientation, we're talking about how we as individuals, who we are attracted to. So I'm a man and I'm attracted to other men, so I am a gay man. If I were attracted to women, I will be considered heterosexual or straight. So that's when we're talking about sexual orientation. Identity is how I choose to present myself to the world. So in my case, I identify as male, and I do things that in our society are considered to be in the male spectrum. So for example, I keep my hair short, which I know is not exclusively to just men, but traditional in our society and in our culture, a thing that men do. I wear men's clothes. But if I had a different gender identity, I could perhaps wear makeup or jewelry that is not necessarily associated with male identity. And so those are the two distinct differences. So again, orientation is who I'm attracted to. Identity is how I choose to present myself to the world. And the two things, in my case, they match, right? Because I'm male and I present as male. But in some cases, they do not. And so that's what the distinction is. And in, we all, as you can see, have on our names, we have our pronouns, which again gives a signal to someone that it is okay for them to share their pronouns. It is a safe space that will not be judged. And just for those who may or may not be aware, the pronouns they, them have become more popular and are acceptable as singular pronouns. So please keep that in mind. And when in doubt, ask. However, don't ask just one individual, ask everyone that's part of the conversation so no one feels that they're being targeted or singled out.
Yeah, thanks, Carlos.
Thank
that's a great way to simplify it. Just if I can share back to make sure that I'm following. Sexual orientation is about who I as an individual am attracted to, that sort of a romantic relationship scenario. Outside of that, we have gender identity, which is who I am as a person. I can present a certain way, but it's sort of in my core, who I identify as, the kind of person I identify as, which may or may not relate to my physiology.
Correct.
Thank you.
Or your genitals for that matter. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Of course.
Cool. And we have a question here, but I'll get Joe, I see your question. I'll get back to that one in a bit. Just because we're on the subject, and I think it's important for people to understand as attendees, because as a gay man, I also, sometimes have a hard time keeping up with all of the identities, because it's a lot. So, Carlos, what would you say LGBTQIA? What do the I and the A mean, and what does plus mean in from your perspective?
Sure. So the I stands for intersex. So these are for individuals. They might have been born with both female and male genitalia. This is a common occurrence. You do not know whether someone is intersex or not, obviously, because those body parts are not shown in public. But just to give you an idea, intersex individuals is as common as redheads. So you may not know that someone is intersex because they haven't told you, but in fact, you may know someone who's intersex, and they just, they just haven't disclosed that to you. The A stands for ally, and these are individuals because their relationships with family members, loved ones, best friends, neighbors, cousins, whatever it may be, they are not a member of the community, meaning they don't identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender, or queer for that matter, but they support our community. They support our rights, they support our visibility, they support our inclusion, and they stand by us. They march with us, they dance with us, they volunteer with organizations like the Center, they support our organizations economically. So that's what the I and the A stand for in the alphabet, if you will.
Thank you. Do we have, Ellie, Jose, do you have anything to add to this topic or subject before we shift gears here?
I always add a second A. The first A to me is asexual. So I just want to add that community to the list. And plus is my favorite, because I really just think I saw this meme that said queerness is a portal. And so I think of the plus as anybody who is not beholden to a heterosexist patriarchal vision of gender or sexual orientation.
Yeah, and I
Thank
take
you, Jose.
you also include, pansexual. I mean, there's just so many. So it could go, we can probably take another hour to discuss. But there's so many. I think that it's important to be respectful of other people's sexuality or gender and how they present. And, you know, being part of this community, I've learned so much. I mean, just when I came out as a lesbian, there was so much to learn. And then when the gender nonconforming generation came along that I was more aware of, then I learned more. So it's constant learning and then staying open and mindful to that, I think is really going to help us to continue to come together. It doesn't matter what, how you identify. I think it's very important for our community to stay open and stay mindful of others.
And let people
And
identify
as,
with another letter if they picked one. You know, like if they just come up with, here's my identity. It's just like, to me, it's not like, well, that's not part of the sequence. It's like, sure, good, great, that's you. I accept that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And as
Yeah.
somebody who wants to be an ally, should they be scared of using the proper pronouns? And like, you know, what if I don't know somebody's pronouns and I say the wrong thing? What do I do? And what is the correct way to act?
Apologize.
Well, I apologize, Ellie. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Apologize.
Go for
Just and ask. It's just like when you start making it about you and your awkwardness and your feel like you offended somebody, it's just like you put them in a place to have to sort of console you. So just if you make a mistake, own it and ask what the correct response is.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you know, if someone shares their name or their pronouns with you and you make a mistake and you realize you made a mistake, you say, I'm sorry, I meant to say, and then you continue on. You don't, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? You know, like that's just correct it, move forward, and next time you do better. And sometimes if you're not sure, you ask. I apologize, I forgot your name. Can you remind me? I apologize, I forgot your pronouns. Can you remind me? And it's the same interaction you would use in any other setting. So it's the same thing. Be respectful, ask. Don't make anyone feel like they're being again picked out of a crowd. Say, well, I don't get you. Tell me more about who you are. No, that's not appropriate. But you know, if you're genuine in the interaction that you want to have, you do it as you would do in any other situation.
Essentially, as someone,
Thank you so much, Carlos.
I grew up in Louisiana, so gendered greetings are a sign of respect, right? So I was taught from when I was young, you answer something, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir. But I'm implying gender about an individual without actually knowing an individual. So it's uncomfortable to make a mistake, but it's okay. Correct the mistake. Don't repeat that mistake and carry on. It's about respect, just echoing what I'm hearing.
That's a great thought, Jeremy. I'm from Texas too, and I haven't even thought about what to do in terms of if I went back to Texas, do I say yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am? I don't know. I think it just kind of depends on the basis of who you're interacting with, and just, I mean, I think the general rule is just treat people like you would want to be treated. As simple as that, you know, be respectful. So this is a great kind of segue into the next question, which I'm just going to ask Carlos just to keep tabs on time here. How important is this in terms of business communications, and what should companies do today to ensure that more inclusivity is in the conversation?
So thank you. That's a very important question. And there are a couple of things that organizations and businesses and employers can do. First of all, depending on your size, this will apply or not, but you know, have written policies. So if you say that my workplace is a safe place for all of my employees, then you have written policies that show that. But your policies have to be very inclusive and have gender identity, sexual orientation in the policy as one of the grounds in which someone can be reprimanded if they target someone because how they're presenting or who they are. But the second piece of that is putting into practice, right? So having something on a policy on a piece of paper is not good enough. You have to train your employees and you have to set the expectation, and the expectations begin at the very top, right? So CEO, manager, owner, whatever their title may be, starts with that individual, whoever they are. And they set the tone, and they set the example for others to emulate. And again, if it applies to the organization, if someone refuses to comply, then there are consequences, and you follow through on what those consequences are. So to demonstrate to all your employees, regardless of who they are, how old they are, where they come from, that this environment is safe for all my employees, regardless of their background or who they are as individuals.
Well, thank you, Carlos. And I lied. Ellie, I also want to know from you, what should companies do today to ensure that they are inclusive in their community?
Well, again, Carlos answered it so well that all I can really say is there definitely needs to be some training. And I believe Long Beach City has some kind of diversity training that maybe businesses can tap into. And hopefully they're up to date with everything that is happening in our community. And that would be a great way. I mean, I think it's important to really talk about these things and not just kind of like usher them under the rug and like, well, we're not really gonna, no, we need to talk about these things because our community and our people are very important to, you know, the city and to the communities, to businesses. I mean, aside from being part of the LGBTQ plus community, we are talented individuals. You know, if we weren't part of the community, we would still be, you know, talented individuals that are also happen to be people of color, that happen to be women, that happen to be minorities. And I think that all of that should absolutely be something that is talked about broadly in businesses, and also part of a training that a city like Long Beach could absolutely provide in some way and support that.
And is there a way for businesses to show, I know you mentioned the Safe Space Alliances, so is there a way to show that they're supportive of our community?
Yeah, I think absolutely, of course, displaying the decal, you are welcome here is very important. But aside from displaying that decal, Carlos and I are working on something that's going to help businesses to really have the language, like he was saying, of how to be supportive and inclusive, because it's a learning curve. I mean, I still make some mistakes sometimes, you know, and I have to correct myself, and I've gotten more comfortable with, you know what, I'm sorry, you know, it's part of being human. And I think it's very important to, yes, of course, we would love for everyone to display the decal because that puts us at ease. That tells us where our money's best spent, where we're actually welcome. Like who else is investing in us and actually cares about our community, right? But aside from that, it's also important for the person who's in charge, the owner, the management, to all be on board as well. Because if everybody's on board, then there's less of this happening where people feel like they're not welcome. And I say this also for people of color. It's also very important for us to feel welcome in different establishments.
So the next question really is more about mental health. And before I go into that one, I just want to touch base on this last question of companies from a chamber standpoint. It is really important that bigger corporations, you know, it could be AT&T, T-Mobile, Comcast, you know, they have a lot of spending power in where they put their dollars. And a lot of the times that doesn't necessarily funnel down to LGBTQ plus owned businesses. And so I do think that it is important to have these type of conversations so people are more aware of like, oh yeah, we don't really have a goal set to spend with a business, but the good news is that a lot of businesses do. They are required to spend a certain amount of money per year on minority and LGBTQ owned businesses. So it's important for us to identify ourselves as LGBTQ plus, because if we're not identified, then we're never going to be at the table. So something that our chamber offers is the LGBTQ certification. We are the affiliate chamber of the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce, and so you could come to us to get certified. All right, so last question, or one of the last questions, is in terms of mental health, Jose, and this goes to you. What is your view on how people are doing today. Are there additional challenges? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think there was kind of this broad assumption that once lockdown was quote unquote over, that things would go back to normal. And it would be sort of a simple, like you just walk out your door and everything's fine. What I'm finding with a lot of people is they weren't prepared for how difficult that transition was going to be. Despite maybe, not liking the confines of lockdown, I think whatever experience you're in, you eventually do get comfortable in. And so putting yourself out there could be difficult. And it's not, I'm just really urging people to be patient with themselves and compassionate with others as they adjust. So if you are not ready to take your mask off and go to a party, like that's fine. There's no sort of time frame in which you have to do that. All I know is that shaming yourself is never a useful tool. So to just be compassionate with yourself and with others. If you see somebody else struggling with that, it's something I could have said before the pandemic. It's just be nicer to each other. If somebody needs support, offer that support. If you don't have extra resources to give support to others, shore up, heal yourself until you're ready to do that.
Thanks, Jose. And I have some great stats that the Downtown Long Beach Alliance put together that I think is imperative for our attendees to know. So in a national study, 40% of transgender adults reported having made a suicide attempt. 92% of these individuals reported having attempted suicide before the age of 25. More than 1 in 3 LGBTQ Americans face discrimination of some kind in the past year, including more than 3 in 5 transgender Americans. 15% of LGBTQ Americans report postponing or avoiding medical treatment due to discrimination, including nearly 3 in 10 transgender individuals. So those are some startling stats to see. Obviously, it saddens me on a personal level, but they're true. So my other question to Jose is, what further steps are needed to help people cope as we emerge from the pandemic?
Everybody just needs to chill out, that's, I'm sorry, that's very broad. I think, but I don't want to take that back. I think people just generally need to chill out with each other, not with experiences, not with systems that need fixing, whatever. But, when I think about those stats, I just think it just like my blood starts to boil because it's such a waste. Because when you consider what the subject is that these people are killing themselves over, it's like they're not killing themselves because they identify as part of the LGBT community. They're killing themselves because other people have a problem with it. So like, it's such a waste. And so if you hear those stats and that shocks you a little bit, it's just your call to go out there and just be kinder in every single step of the way. If kindness was a spectrum, it starts at like, I don't know, tipping your waitress, and then it goes down to like, affirming someone's identity. So it's not that difficult, or I say it's not that complicated, but it maybe can be difficult. And so just try harder. And I think we all got kind of shocked into this reality that prior to the pandemic, identifying our own weaknesses and reaching out for help, there just seems to be like, there was always a tension around that. And I really hope that as we come out of this, it becomes normal for us to say, hey, I'm struggling. And for us not to like, be like, oh, well, don't talk about that at work. It's like, if you're struggling, you're struggling. Sorry, I'm kind of ranting a bit. How does that sound?
No, that was good. I have a son who's transgender, so I can tell you that when I hear those stats, it's very alarming to me, right? But also it's alarming in a way that, I need to continue to step up. I need to continue to be visible. I need to continue to champion this cause, even though I am a lesbian and even though I'm able to go into places that maybe other people can't. It doesn't matter. I think it's so important for us to use our privilege. And yes, while we're chilling out and being kinder, I think we also need to continue to move with purpose. And the purpose,
yes, thank you.
If I can enter to a door, then I'm going to hold it open for other people. And that means people like my son, people like who maybe are gender nonconforming and you can't tell, and who cares, right? Like that's just so important to me because I also come from a family who wasn't very accepting, and I had to take time to heal myself and do the work, so that I can be better and I can continue to show up for my community. So yes, while we're chilling out and being kinder, also move towards closer to equality. And that to me means being visible. And yes, I mean, it is alarming. The numbers are alarming. And I'm glad to say that my son is doing well, he's thriving. But I know it's also because of the community that he comes from, not just from my support, but also from the people that are around him, that he surrounded himself with. So yes, definitely be more kinder.
I do. Sorry, go on.
Well, I was also going to say, if it's safe, please do not be a silent bystander. So if you see something, you see someone that is being mistreated, someone that is being misgendered, someone that is being ridiculed, step up and say, no, that is not acceptable. Because that person may physically feel that it's not safe for them to defend themselves, right, and stand up for themselves. So if there's a person standing by that can have their back and say, no, this is not acceptable here. You need to leave, or you need to stop, or whatever the interaction needs to be. Please do so. Again, if it's safe for you to do so. We don't want anyone to put themselves in harm. But that act of valor, if you will be so significant for that person to know that they, again, as Ellie just said, that they're not alone, that there are people around them that care, that can stand up with them and for them, will go a long, long way.
There's a privileged part of our community, and I would include myself as part of them. And I really like what you said, because that's sort of like, it's our job to help bridge, or to help. I like how you said valor, because that to me is like, wouldn't it be cool if we applauded valor as opposed to applauding like a good burn,
I like that, Jose. It's a good thought. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands. If you're an attendee, feel free to post your questions on the right. I know that I have some questions to get to, but I just want to make sure that we hit all of our itinerary questions, and then we'll get back to some of the questions at the end for attendees. But feel free to post questions in the chat on the right if you have any, and if they make sense with the overall conversation, I'll answer them. If not, then I'll just wait till the end to kind of get them involved in a conversation. So let's see. So thank you, Jose, for answering all those mental health questions. Anything else you want to end with, Jose?
I do have hotline numbers. I didn't know if you could maybe post them, or.
Yeah, we'll make sure that resources are available on the website following the conversation, along with bios and all of the content.
Good. Thank
you.
You.
And I'll post the stats here that I just read on the right, so you guys can all see it. Okay, so the next question goes to Carlos. The concept of rainbow washing or woke washing has impacted the LGBTQ plus community. Are businesses using this to cash in on people's idealism to sell products? What advice do you have for local businesses to attract the LGBTQ plus community?
So I certainly do think that there are corporations that are pretending to care for our community. It has been happening for as long as we have been around, and it will continue to happen. So it is important for us as individuals, but also as consumers, to do a little bit of homework and really find out, do this organization or business support LGBT causes at a national level, at a state level, at a local level? And if so, then it might be worth for me to spend my $5 or whatever amount of money I have with them. And if we cannot find that information, then they're probably rainbow washing and just cashing in on the trend, if you will, the flavor of the moment. So locally, I know that Ellie, the center, and the chamber have been very crucial in the Safe Space Alliance, and we have businesses that have put their stickers on their windows to signify that there are safe spaces for all members of the LGBTQ community. But it's important for us to also be supportive of one another, right? So I know for Pride Month, there have been some local businesses that are doing fundraisings for us at the center. So I encourage my friends, my family members, my neighbors, hey, this business is doing a local fundraiser, go spend, $5, $10. It's not gonna be a significant number of dollars coming to us as an organization, but we're supporting the local business. We're supporting entrepreneurs, we're supporting local jobs, right? So for me, it's just as crucial as supporting big corporations.
Thank you. And I want to answer this from a chamber standpoint, just because I've had a couple of friends mention this, if they see a commercial from, I don't know, a retailer that's, trying to show the pride with all the colors and the commercials. And some friends have been angry about it. Like, where were they 10 years ago? And I guess my thoughts on that whole subject is, I think it's awesome. Like, I don't care necessarily that not everybody, and we know this, not everybody has LGBTQ rights at the forefront of their mind right now. What matters is that they're doing it. I mean, this is what we've been wanting. We wanted people to see the power of the LGBTQ plus dollar, and we're there, and people are actually doing it. What is our job as advocates and allies is to make sure that they're actually spending the money that they're making in our community, and we need to hold them accountable to that. So maybe their initial reason for doing it is just money and profit, but we need to hold them accountable to make sure that they are actually giving back to our community. But I think from an awareness standpoint, if I was, 10 years old and saw, a Gap commercial with LGBT colors, I mean, I could have changed my world,
Absolutely.
I love both sides of the debate though, because I think it's important I think you make a great point that just visibility alone, the good that does. But at the same time, not to be like, oh, well, they put a rainbow on something, they're good, it's like still. And I would also add, it's not just about if they donate to LGBT causes. I'm also interested in who else they donate to and if they're donating to an oppressor. I would add that.
Yeah, and what I'd like to add is it is our also duty to do, like you said, Jose, do our own research and understand where these businesses are giving to or putting their money towards, and if they're hiring LGBTQ plus owned businesses. It is extremely important that we push them as a community to actually do that and spend with us, especially if they put a sticker or make a shirt in LGBTQ pride colors. And with that, I'll go to Joe's question. Joe asked, as it relates to LGBTQ businesses, how do we all reach out to those business owners and businesses? Ellie, do you want to try to answer that one?
Well, for sure. We do tourism. So for me, it's important, again, to curate spaces, right? So that means that I create, or my wife rather, because she's the one that does all of the website and our awesome videos, and we promote it. We are visible on LinkedIn. We're visible on Instagram. Social media is queen right now. I mean, if you are on there and you're, hashtagging and doing all the right things you're supposed to be doing to promote yourself, it will come. But you also have to show up to events. Like, show up to maybe, of course, one of the mixers of the chamber, or, show up to one of Carlos's events, or if there's another entity that welcomes our community, then we show up and we let them know who we are. We introduce ourselves. So a lot of it is actually doing the work of connecting, of building community. And that means showing up and talking and discussing about what you do and why you do it. And when you do that, you show up authentically, then you're going to draw those people in. but you have to be active. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all that stuff is free, and it takes work, but it's good work that's going to get you the visibility that you need so that people know about you. Aside from showing up and going to events, you have to do the background work, which is basically you're at home or wherever you are and just being visible. It's very important. I can't say enough about being visible.
Yeah, I know when I travel, and I haven't done much of it in the last 18 months or so, but when I travel, particularly if I'm traveling with my husband and we're going to a new city or a new space that we haven't been before, we always look for the rainbow flags, whether it's on the window, whether it's hanging out of a, out of a, whatever it is, because we know, right? And then we go there and we ask, okay, so where are the local, whatever we're looking for? So they serve as our little reference point, if you will. So again, because that visibility, right? Had I not seen that flag, I would have not known that it's if it's not gay owned or LGBTQ owned, at least they're allies, right? And I can go and say, hey, where do I find the best tacos in town, or the best donuts, or the best sandwich, or whatever it is I'm looking for? So that's also for me one of the strategies that I use. And if I don't see any, then I know that when my husband and I are in public, I don't hold his hand, right? Because I have to think about my safety,
Yep.
right? And being a person of color and being gay, there are layers there. So it also dictates how I behave, really, and the places that I will not go into.
Yeah, and I think, and Ellie, I'm sure you will agree from this. What I hadn't really thought about that, Carlos, is like when I travel with my partner, seeing a flag is just so symbolic of safety.
Yeah.
And like as downtown Long Beach, as a business alliance, I would definitely say, like, knowing that is very powerful to so many people, but not only is it great to make people safe, and that's why the Safe Space Alliances is a great way to do that, but also, it brings in money. Like, the LGBTQ plus community has money to be spending, and if they see that, it's just going to help bring in more people and attract more people. Ariana, I see your question. I think it kind of fits as a good transition. How can the center and/or the chamber inspire future LGBTQ entrepreneurs? Carlos, I'll let you answer this first, and then I'll chime in.
Yeah. So one of the things, and of course, the pandemic kind of put a little bit of a stop or a pause button on things, but we're working on career day or career fairs. So where we bring members of our community to speak to young folks as to the different career paths that are available to them. And not only members of our community, but also our allies. So if an employer has fantastic policies and fantastic benefits that will ensure the well-being of that individual and their family, we want those individuals at the table. We want to encourage young people to go into those fields, whatever that field may be. I know that right now STEM is popular, right? But who knows, 2, 3, 5 years from now, what the field would be. So that's one of the ways that we're going to be engaging young people to think about what their future could be like. And it may not be a corporate job. It might be a small business owner, because we know that there's small, successful business owners that are right here in our community. So that's one of the strategies that we'll be using, and we're working behind the scenes now with some large and smaller employers to make that happen. And we're going to do it several times a year.
Cool. Well, Ariana, I'm really happy you asked this question, because I think it's really awesome to hear what Carlos and the center kind of have planned and visioned, because from the chamber standpoint, what we've always wanted to do, but don't necessarily have bandwidth, but I think we want to start in small little things here and there. One of them that we plan on doing is starting a mentorship program. in reaching out to the local colleges and pairing them up with an LGBTQ plus business owner. And that way, maybe that business owner could either get them on as an intern or just kind of mentor them on a life basis type of thing. We don't exactly know yet, but this is what we've been discussing. But also it's good to know your vision, Carlos, because I think it would be great to create synergy between the two things and help market each other and partner up, really. Yeah, I think it would be good to connect there. See. So the other question is, let me go back to my sheet here. Actually, I think we're done with most of our main questions, but Ariana, I know you had another question here. That was a little outside context of conversation. What are some engagement practices the Center of Long Beach and other businesses will use to ensure that its services and programs reach LGBTQ POC? And if you don't know what POC means, it means people of color. What are some important local level policies or initiatives that are currently that are important to LGBTQ Long Beach community? Great question, Carlos. I'll let you answer the first part of that first.
So I can tell you that what we're doing is we're being purposeful, right? So again, the pandemic has put a little bit of a dent on what we're doing, but for me, as a person of color, as a gay man, and as a leader of the local LGBTQ center, it's important that what we do is center on and with the needs of the community. And I'm not talking about me sitting in my office thinking about what people need. It's me going out and talking to community members and talking to different groups. I started doing that 3 months ago when I was hired, but I intend to do it even more because as you probably are aware, we need a new home for our programs or services, right? So I need to find where in Long Beach is best suited for us to move our programs and services because we have outgrown our current location. We intend to keep our current location, but we'll be looking for a home for our programs and services and keep our administrative functions out of the 4th Street current location. But it's again being intentional, creating spaces in which voices can be heard. For me, that means board recruitment. So I'm currently searching for board members that are representative of the people we serve or the people that we have not served. Because let's face it, we all have work to do, and the center is not immune to that particular phenomenon, right? So again, being intentional in what I do, what I say, where I go, the spaces that I create. As Ellie said earlier, we have to hold the door open for those that have not been through that door yet. And that's what I am working on, and that's what I intend to do while I remain in my role here at the center.
Cool, thank you, Carlos. And then the other part of the question was, what are some important local level policies or initiatives that currently are important to the LGBTQ plus community in Long Beach? And so I'll answer one of these, and then Ellie could answer the other. One of the policies initiatives that were passed probably 2 years ago and was solved because of the pandemic was that Long Beach was the first city in California to recognize LGBTQ certification. So like I mentioned before, you could go through their chamber, you can get certified as LGBTQ plus business owner, which I highly recommend if you're an LGBTQ plus business owner in the attendees to do. And I will give you a call to action after all of this. But more importantly, what this initiative did is recognize it in the procurement process within the city of Long Beach. So when the city of Long Beach is looking for digital media services, or maybe a concrete, somebody who pours concrete, or I don't know, somebody who builds fences. All of these projects are things that they look for all the time. And so if you identify yourself as LGBTQ, and now they have set these new goals for LGBTQ plus business owners, you will they will come to us and say, hey, do you know anybody? And our chamber will go out and find you and make sure that you are included in that bid. So that is something that the implementation is in the works. It passed 2 years ago. So just know that it is happening. And then we're also excited to talk about the Safe Space Alliances. And Ellie, I'll let you talk about this again.
Yeah, so again, the Safe Spaces Alliance was created because of, unfortunately, what happened with the tower. They burned the tower, here in Long Beach. And that was alarming for all of us, of course. And it made us feel that we weren't safe. And as part of the tourism, LGBT, work that we're doing, it was important for us to make, people feel comfortable and secure again. Everybody was affected differently. Maybe some people weren't as alarmed, and there's a lot of misgivings, whatever happened there. But the point being that it's absolutely important. Again, where are we spending our money? As consumers, it's our responsibility as well. And as business owners, it's important to welcome people in. So with that being said, Visit Gay Long Beach, came up with the Safe Spaces Alliance. We reached out to our other LGBTQ leaders, Carlos at the center and Esteban at the chamber, for their support. Esteban put us in touch with Mary Sendejas, who has championed it till it got approved unanimously by the board last month at City Council. So now it's an official initiative. And we were going to do it regardless, because they just created so much momentum and people were signing up and it just took off internationally. And it was just kind of like, we're doing it. But it's so wonderful to know that the city of Long Beach was absolutely 100% behind it. So with that being said, it really creates more of a momentum to continue to curate these, places, spaces. And it's not just, for bars or businesses. That's not what we're trying to do. We really want it to be everyone. We have teachers at Long Beach Unified that had signed up for it. And that response has been amazing. I can't wait to share some of the photos and posts from those teachers. And it's taken off and it's important. I think it's one of the initiatives that I really feel is very strong and it's going to help us to continue to be visible. So yeah.
It's super easy to do. DLBA actually is agreed right now, if time permits, we'll go ahead and join the Safer Spaces Alliances as a business agency. So just to show folks, this is what it looks like, safespacesalliance.com. You are welcome here. Scroll down, there's the pledge. Safe Spaces Alliance is dedicated to curating LGBTQ plus safe spaces. Businesses and organizations can show their support by displaying a decal on their storefronts or website, letting the LGBTQ plus community know that they are welcome. Fill out your information. You also have options to donate and download the graphics and submit. And that's what it takes. Then you get your sticker. Oh, it's not showing. You get your sticker.
Yeah, that was quick. I was able to send that virtually.
But it really is super easy, super quick, and really important. As we talked about in this conversation, inclusion is intentional. That's sort of the big takeaway that I'm getting. And the way to bring people in is to let them know it's a safe space, it's a welcoming environment, and that they are a part of this bigger community. So thank you for making that happen.
Thank you for all your support. I mean, we really couldn't do it without the support of the community, So yeah, and just the platform that you're providing for us to do this today, and the different businesses that are here and entities, and it's so important. It's so important. So thank you too.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's awesome. And another thing that I would like to say to the Downtown Business Alliance is if you guys see or hear anybody who wants to support our community and wants to give their dollars to us, it's as easy as going to lbglcc.org, our website, and looking through our digital directory. you don't need to be certified, like I had mentioned earlier, in order to discover who the talent and the skill sets are of our community. So whether it's IT or whether it's digital media services or whether it's videography, we have people who do it all. So I just added our site on the right, and you could just easily go to our directory and find businesses within our community. So with that being said, I think that is it. Jeremy, do you have anything else before I go to call to action?
Thank you. And more thank yous to come. So let's go to calls to action. Let's make it happen.
All right. Ellie, we'll start with your call to action.
Okay. Well, if you are interested in becoming part of the Safe Spaces Alliance, we ask you to please visit our website at safespacesalliance.com. Fill out the form, send us a little message, and I'm happy to drop one in the mail for you. Or if you're local, now that I have a car again, I will bring it by and snap your photo. We would love to feature people. So please, if I do mail you one, send us a photo of yourself and your little mission statement, and we're happy to highlight you so that people know who you are and know where their money's best spent.
Cool. Thank you, Ellie. Carlos, what's your call to action?
Get to know us. If you don't know us, get to know us. We're fabulous, as you can probably tell by all of us being here today. Because I think once you get to know us, you understand who we are, you understand what we are about, and you'll get to see that we are contributing members to the fabric of our communities. So that's my call to action. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Jose?
My call to action is to never go back to the pre-pandemic view of mental health, to put it as a priority. And in relation to what we're talking about, bigotry is a good place to start looking at yourself. So if you find yourself unwelcoming of any community, not to shame yourself, but to just ask yourself where that comes from and really do some work on yourself there. But essentially just take care of yourself and take care of those people around you.
Cool, thank you, Jose. And so my call to action, and Jose, this goes for you as you started your own business. I highly recommend you get LGBT certified. Also, I highly recommend someone at Downtown Long Beach Alliance attend. So we have a free event tomorrow at 4 p.m. on Zoom. It is free. We're just going to talk about the benefits of getting LGBTQE certified. So even if maybe you don't even own a business, it's just good to know. That way, if you talk to somebody who not only wants to support, who starts a business, this is a great way to understand what those benefits are. So this is a free 4 p.m. at tomorrow. Just click on the link and register. It's easy peasy. I think that is it. Thank you so much to the Downtown Long Beach Alliance for putting this together. We really appreciate your support and your help. It means a lot to our community. And I'm speaking on behalf of all of us.
I actually had one more thing I wanted to add. We're actually having a big mixer on August 19th at the Westin Long Beach. They are actually one of our partners and our sponsors. And we invite you to come. It's going to be from 5 to 8. There will be more information coming. So all that have already taken the pledge are welcome to come. Any new people that want to come and show support for our community, you're also welcome to come. August 19th, 5 to 8 at the Westin LB, and it's a free event.
Mark your calendars.
Calendars.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Ellie. Be sure to hold me accountable to post that in the chamber somewhere. And then, yeah, does anybody have anything else before we leave? No? Well, thank you guys.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
No, you're saying what I was going to say. Just my sincere thanks to you, Esteban, to our panelists, Carlos, Ellie, and Jose, and to all of you for tuning in to today's downtown discussion. As we noted, diversity in our community is an essential key component of community building. It's important also, it's an important part of DLBA's vision for a successful downtown. So I hope you've all enjoyed today's discussion. I encourage you all to engage in your community. visit the downtown discussions section of our website, downtownlongbeach.org, for more information, including panelist bios and some of the resources we've discussed in today's conversation. Thanks again, and y'all enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, and happy Pride, everybody.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Bye.